Hello everyone and welcome back here for another Onchain MoonDay, and today we're gonna talk about something that's not really talked about much in the Onchain analysts arguments, or anyway on Twitter. And here let's start as always from the macro data, and maybe we can see on the long term at the end the new data we have and what I saw. But today we're going to talk about realized price, or anyway profitability, for young, old, and isolated bands, age hodlers. And we're gonna see what I'm talking about in just a minute. So stay with me. Here we have, as always, our starting chart with realized price versus 200 weekly MAs, and in this case we are still hanging out above the 200 weekly SMA and the MA. Really not much to say. I think we'll have to wait a little bit to see if we get it down, as I said on Wednesday and also on Saturday. If we get down a little bit to get up to 25k, 24k, as I already said. And here, in that case, we'll see if we can go above and to 30k again. So this is what I see. I don't see it coming again to 20k and so on. It will mean just a black swan event or something like that. But let's go in what I want to talk about today. Today I'm gonna talk about, as I already said, categories of hodlers divided by age. And in this case, we are going to talk from young, old, and isolated age bands. So, young age bands right here, cumulative SOPR. In this case, the profitability SOPR will be the profitability of these categories of hodlers. That means the unrealized profit that they have. So, if they sell, this charts reply to the question, if they sell now, what kind of profitability they would have. And in this case, 1.2, 1.4, 1.6x from the SOPR. So in this case, let's see. Let's get into what is the entire thing right here. You see the SOPR is a noisy metric, and in fact, let's get out and watch this one to one. 1 month or less orders, that means 1 month or less, it does take into account 1 hour, and so obviously transactions. So on Chain we have this kind of noisy thing, and I don't think it's kind of useful for us if we are not just taking into consideration something like this, or anyway in this case just the last price action we have, and we get right here, and we see where we are at a break-even point. We are at the point where the market could turn on, and in fact we see that for these categories of hodler in the short term we are below the one, so they are probably seeing a little bit of loss right here, of a realized loss anyway. And anyway, this is not really important for us because we are not going to analyze that, because it's not really useful to analyze this kind of SOPR. It's more useful for us to analyze SOPR coming from 140D or less, taking into account, so these are 4 to 5 month orders and 6 months or less. We'll start to realizing here some kind of pattern, and in fact we see that on going into a bear market we are below the one most of the time, and meanwhile going into a bull market we are above. And in fact in the last few weeks we got above the one, as I already said multiple times, and this could mean just a bear market rally as it was for 2019 more or less, before the COVID crash. But also there, before the COVID crash, we had this kind of event where we got down from here. So it could be a bear market rally, or even a start of a new bull market like it was back in 2016. So more or less this is what I see here, but what I really want to see and what I would like you to see is that people, or anyway, others that have 1 year or less, or 2 year or less, are actually those that we want to see more. Actually, the best is the 2 year or less in the young cumulative band soper, and in fact, we see that we got above, and we here see the pattern coming to reality and more clear to us actually. And let's get into the last price action just a second here. In fact, we just we're trending above here, just standing onto the line and trying to stay above, even if we fall a little bit back, a little bit above, a little bit back. So we are still on the one, we could say. And I think if we hang out right here, we possibly go high again in the next few days or weeks. But let's get into what is the realized price itself from the young cumulative bands. So if we get into it, let's see what actually is our realized price. Realized price is the on-chain cost basis of every and single category of hodlers. In this case, we are talking about cost basis for 1 month or less, 3 months or less, 140 days or less, and so on. As for their cost basis on chain, and we see, and let's talk about that a little bit, that these 1 month or less are actually not really important as per the price itself. What instead really because 1 month or less are actually too much short-term orders that speculators and are moving their coins more on the 1 hour chart and so on, instead of seeing the price action as we see it right now. So the historic price action of Bitcoin, and 3 months or less are actually not even still perfectly aligned with the price as a support, as you see. And what we like to see more is coming to 100 MD and 6 month holders, that as you see right here, they more or less take into account the tops into a bear market, and we use it as a support into a new bull market again. And it kind of divide the price action from a bull and bear perspective on their realized price. And so lastly, we got there, and we used it as a support here, and we are still using that support right here. So if we do the same we did right here, and we got from 20 to more or less 30k, maybe we see some kind of price appreciation that we already said earlier, that kind of much appreciation. But what we know is that above we have resistances that comes from the 2 years or less all hodlers, so taking into account all of those that we already saw here. And this is the price action. In fact, you see we blocked right here. We stopped exactly on the 2 years cost basis hodlers, and in fact it is still at 29.4k, and that could be our resistance. If we don't break that, we can really say we are going into a new bull market for sure, because as you see right here, this is the best dividing things of all bear market from bull market we had. In fact, we stand into a bull market last time on 2021, in summer 2021, because we stand still above, and we just got a little bit down from there, from this realized price itself. So instead here we didn't manage to stay above. We got up and down, up and down, up and down, and then finally we got down, and now we're using us at a resistance. So what is important to us to see is to recover this level right here before thinking a new price action. And I think with all that we already saw here, with this kind of support we have on chain from this perspective, and that is reaching our price, that we could see that in a matter of weeks, because we are still in a bear market and the price action is obviously slow. But let's get into all cumulative band soper. Old cumulative band SOPR that takes into account here a diversified amount of hodlers. These are 1+ years, so from 1 to infinity hodlers, 1 year to infinity hodlers. And as you see right here, it tends to go very high, and the SOPR tends to get very, very high. And here we are talking about like 120x SOPR on the 1 year plus for these categories of hodler into 2019, let's say 2017 bull market top. And here in the last two hikes, we got in the first at 16x. So the market profitability for them now at these levels gone to 2.16 before actually return down. So we now know that they started to get profit because they need liquidity probably, and so on. And the same we can see, but and we should use that the same we saw earlier from the Young here. Let's get Young realized price here. Okay, let's get the 6 month. Not that. Let me guess. Yeah, it was here. Super 6 month to 1 year. 6 month more or less. You see right here that we got more or less the same. We got down. This is isolated. This is we got down into a. Let's get here so we can compare it. You see, we get to 1 year, 2 year or less, 1 year to 6 months, 1 year, and we saw that into a bear market we are below 1. Meanwhile, we're starting again into a bull market, and now we are reaching for this 2x and getting down. We need to stay above, and as we did into March 2020, we need to stay above this line for us to stay in a profitable position in the coming weeks or months. And what is not really useful for us instead is to watch the profitability levels that we have for 2 years or more others, and in fact we reached even the 4x, and the 3 years we reached the 7x for 3 and plus years, so others, and that will mean that actually from 2020 more or less 2020 right here, so still all this price action right here, they are in profit from 7.36. What we see right here is that it actually got down because from time to time they realize profits to these levels right here, and in fact it comes down really fast in bull market and still got down real fast in the last few months here because of all the centralized and decentralized exchange failing, and this got bankruptcy and legislation and so on. So we kind of are seeing this kind of pattern that is going down the profitability of these holders slowly but slowly. I don't know if we ever reach the 1, and that will be very, very, very cool to see. If when we reach 1, they start reaccumulating as fast as they can again, and in 3 months or so, in 3 years or so, obviously is lagging indicator because we need to wait 3+ years to see that coming into this chart, but it will be very huge to see that happening and restarting accumulating, starting to see the profitability getting higher without them actually touching their money for periods that's a long time. But obviously someone at the end will take profit, and so we'll go below. I was talking about the Young realized price, and that's old cumulative band SOPR and not isolated. So we get into that that the SOPR that we want to see is actually 1+ here, standing above the 1, and not the others. We are not going to take it in consideration, just maybe for curiosity. So realized price for this cumulative are also not very touching this the market price. So what is driving at this point? I'm gonna stop a little bit to say what is actually driving more the price of Bitcoin. It's actually old cumulative bands or young cumulative bands, and that will mean short or long-term holders. What drives most the price in bear market, in bull market, in every market are speculators, and so short-term holders. In this case, in fact, we don't see that much coming through, that much support coming through. For example, 4 years, let's get it out. 3 years, let's get it out. 2 years, let's get it out. But more from 1 year, 1 year or 6 month people. From year, we are talking about 1+. But you know, it's the same. That is not the same. It's not really the same from the young perspective, because that is 1 or less. Here we are talking about 1+, but still you see that we touched a little bit here for the 1 year plus as a support, and we did it again in this bear market. So this will be the next bear market we get here. We now know that this is a huge support for the price, and that we want to accumulate as much as we can in this in this bands here, in this realized price zone, that is coming from 6+ to 1+ year, 6 month plus and 1+ year orders. And in fact, they raised more or less the same level right here, that is 20k. That is, we already saw here, is more or less the realized price itself, because the majority of people are actually into this kind of bands of realized price. But let's get into the isolated age bands, because we now know we want to see the thing from an isolated view. So we got to a young, so less than, and old, so more than. In this case, we are talking about 1 date to 1 date, 1 week to 1 month, 1 month to 3 months, 3 months to 140 days, and so on. So let's get and see what this kind of super actually means. You see that the majority of the super isn't really actually useful for us to see from a 1 week to 1 month perspective, even though for the 1 month to 3 month, because here we are starting seeing a little bit a new pattern going on, but much of this is just speculation. So the unrealized profit, from the unrealized profit perspective, we obviously we do some kind of it's almost useless to take into account this. It's more useless to see the more useful to see the 3 month to 6 month hodlers. And in fact, you see here a pattern. We got into a midterm top to midterm bottoms here, for example, and we got the midterm top, midterm bottom, midterm top. We got from here, and then we stayed more or less there until we got here, another top right here, another bottom, and then we got another top, and this was the bull market. And the same goes here in the bear, because you see we got into an unprofitability here, and then we got to another level, and then again down, and then again up to another top, midterm top, and not short-term tops. And this is actually useful for us, because we can take this as confluence metric, not using that alone, but using it with more and more metrics to see if we are actually into a top or into a bottom. And in the last few days, in the last few weeks, we are still in that kind of and we are getting up, so we are still more or less there. Let me just get more again out. We are still getting into a phase where we could see, in fact, a new top, because the market profitability for them is to 1.7 to almost to 1.8 super. So they are at 1.8x, 3 months to 6 months at 1.8x. Let's see if this is the case, but first let's see if the 6 months to 1 year stays the same. And actually, they are not taking profit that much, because otherwise we would see their profitability going down. And in this case, we are not seeing that much of them. They are still, in fact, holding, because we are an all-time high from the last 6 months price action. We got a 1.4x profitability for them. What we actually see instead is that 1 to 2 years are getting a little bit above, but are they're not very hyped about this cycle. They're still below their profitability levels, below their cost basis, and they're still waiting to recover their price, their cost basis on chain. And that because probably they both right here in this zone, and they're still underwater. And until we got above, as you see right here, until we got above that profitability, as time goes on, we can't really expect that the market will regain momentum, because um, actually we are lagging. This is lagging, a lagging indicator of 1 year to 2 years it takes to get into this chart. So we got the unprofitability level right here, and we got right here, but we need 2 years more, 1 or 2 years more, before getting into a new all-time high, getting the profitability higher, and so that people that both right there, well, the price gets up, and finds another level, gets into profitability, and then we may see this 1 year to 2 years starting reaccumulating again, faster at cost basis, or just let out their last profits to exit the market. We'll see, and that will be the point, the turning point that we are waiting for. And we'll still have to see. And even here in the realized price bands, every time we talk about realized price, the most important, and you see yourself, 4 to 8 years, they didn't even touch ever for the price of Bitcoin. 3 to 4 years, never even closely. In fact, let's get out all of this so you still see. 3 to 4 years, we don't see the price ever touching it. So why worry about? We start seeing the price touching it from 2 to 3 years hodlers. And in this case, we are up and well above the realized price for the market price. And in this case, when this happens, is just because people who had this kind of realized price just sold, or anyway bought more at these levels, and got into their wallets, so the cost basis rised in the last few but we are taking not in the last few days, in the last few cycles. And in fact, 2 to 3 years is still lagging, so we have to take into account that this kind of movement right here to the upside happened 2 to 3 years ago. And in this case, so 2021, 2020, when the price was rising. And so we must take into account that people has been trapped right here, and still, or anyway, still hodling from this kind of price action right here. And so this is actually what it looks like 3 years later. And so that means also that people who bought here didn't scare, and they're still inside the price action, and still inside Bitcoin, and still waiting, and still hodling. That's actually bullish too, in my opinion. And the same goes right here for the 1 to 2 years. Same, because we were more or less right here, anyway, more back above the price that we have right now. And we see that anyway here we start seeing a difference. We have to see that 1 to 2 years are the most useful categories of hodler. 6 months to 2 years, actually, because we must take into account also this. The most useful, because as you see, for example, 1 year, and let's get out the 6 months for now, 1 year to 2 year is actually what the price used as a support and as support into the March of 2020, and as a resistance before, and try to stay above before getting higher into a new bull market. And in fact, as soon as we broke through and broke down from here, we got a very negative price appreciation, and so price depreciation, and we still have to wait. But here we what we know and what we can use this for is that when we reach these levels again, 36.6 and 43k level, that will be our resistances on chain. And we must take that into account, and not only that, because we saw last week that 47.5k are actually Nambax cost basis, and so it stays right there as well. So 47, we are 43, 47. So this price right here, composed from 40 to 50k, is actually really full of people with a lot of money and hodling from years. And so we need to take into account that would be the very much resistance we have to battle to get into and to win, to get into a new all-time high. As of right now, anyway, for the short-term price action, you see that the majority of these short-term holders just goes up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. So, I mean, with the price, that will mean just that the majority that moves the price. The thing is that people that move the price are 6 month or 1 year or less hodlers actually. And more, you see yourself that not taking, if you are a trader, you can get the 1 week to 1 month realized price here, and see where you can sell. In fact, for example, you may want to get into is not all you see right here. Obviously, it's not financial advice, guys and girls. It's just my opinion, and you want, in this case, I'm just sharing it. If you want to use Onchain to trade, that you take 1 week to 1 month, you take here and enter right here, for example, and as soon as the price get up, you exit again when the price reach there. Then you wait for the price to get down from there. You start re-entering, and when the price get up and return to your cost basis, you get out. And doing this, you'll be profitable on the long term perspective, even trading. Okay, and you can do that as much as you want. You can do it as much as you want into a bull market, but you must take into account that to wait for the price to get to the very low levels, because obviously if you are trading into a bear market, you are trading short, you maybe want to do the inverse tactic. So you get short when you touch this realized price, you get short, and then you close your short when you retouch it again, and so on. But I don't recommend anyone to use shorts or longs if you are not experienced, and anyway not more than 2-3x to margin, because obviously that you are going to lose money. Even if you are the best player in the market, you are going to lose money. And my personal my personal argument, I don't know how to tell you the word, is not to lose money, because losing money is like having $100, you lose $50. Then to regain the $100 you have to get a 100% and not the 50% you lost. So obviously it's double the force. You need double the money, and you need double the time, and just to recover what you lost. And it's not my tactic actually. My tactic is a long-term investment, 90% long-term investment, and 10% trading, more or less, just into bull market, because I don't like shorts. As I already said, I don't like to use that kind of instruments and tools. In fact, using that, I'm being profitable on all bull markets, making aside and taking out liquidity for the bull market to re-enter, and making also more X's and X's, because in, in reality, guys and girls, you just need to make 2x per year. In 10 years, you will make from 1k, you will make a million, and that's just what it takes to be profitable in the market. Patience and a lot of knowledge. Not to want to become rich fast and so on. That's not really good. For the midterm price action, so you want to enter 1 month and exit 3 months later, just every quarter, because you have an institutional, you have a company, you want to invest. The company is great. You can get into 1 to 3 month realized price, and you see yourself that would be profitable for the same reason. You enter every time you get into a bull market, you enter here, and as soon as you start reaching for the other one, again you exit, and then you wait for the price to get down from there, wait the price to get really down, and meanwhile you see that 1 2 weeks 3 weeks pass and the price still there. You will re-enter, and then you wait for the price to regain and getting in and getting out again when we retouch this line again. And when we retouch it, we re-enter, and then we exit when we got above again the last all-time high, and we re-enter at this price. But you still have to wait and see if this is your kind of instrument, because obviously here we knew that probably it was that cat bounce, so you have to have knowledge of what you're doing to do this, using Onchain as a support, using your instruments and so on. So here maybe you want to re-enter, but you know that the price is similar to this, that we had this, so you are kind of waiting and say, well, I'm not re-entering here, I'm waiting for the price to go down to re-enter, and the same you would have done right here, and you've done good. So you wait, and you wait right here, and you re-enter to wait for the price to get up and down, so you got a little bit even in bear market or like this. But more or less, if you know now that you are in a bear market, you would enter here short and then close right here. You have to shift your strategies, but that's how to use on-chain data to make money on trading. But also another thing I would like to share with you is that all of these realized price right here are up and downs, and so in reality the short-term holder are moving more the price, as I always said. And here we have the data proof, and we are not talking about air or thin air, we are just talking about data. And the data says that long-term holders are not moving the price, are never, they didn't in a long time, because obviously they need years to become long-term holders, and meanwhile you wait, you just lose the sense of trading, and you don't want to trade your long hodled money. So we know that the price appreciation and the depreciation in the bear market comes in the majority from a short-term holder perspective. Meanwhile, we have these peaks of long-term holding realizing prices and realizing profits or realizing losses. The majority comes from short-term holders. So this is most likely it. I want just to show you the fact that in bear market we had this long-term holder spent in loss or a pair, but not obviously into a new bull market. And meanwhile we did every time this in long. At pair is this orange. Meanwhile in loss they spent in the majority on the bottom of the bear market. We had these two spikes, one coming here, but the price is still growing. Why? Because even though long-term holders are realizing losses on chain, the majority moving the price are actually coming from short-term holders that we saw last week, that are ambex, sharks, whales, and so on. And we are now going down. If we can go down a little bit more and maybe reach for this level right here, where is the top of the at par realizing profit or losses, it actually in the break-even point, That will be huge. That will be huge because it will mean that we're probably going to see a new bull market soon. And in fact, you see the rising of this in the last cycle, not in the other one, because obviously it was another cycle, it was another thing, and we can take it really into account the upper level, the one on MVRV, the one on Soper, and so on, because actually here we didn't have altcoins, we didn't have the cycles we have, where we didn't had companies into the market, so long-term holders were actually speculators as well, and so on. So the at par levels are not really useful for us, and in fact, you see, we didn't get into the loss into the very deep of the bear market, but onto the almost deep into the almost deeper of the bear market. Instead, this was very in the deep here, very in the deep. The here and here, we got more or less the majority of our losses. So we are waiting for this to go down and to realize more. Another thing was I've not time to talk about this. Maybe we'll talk about this in another section. But you see that the realized profit comes into a bull market. Meanwhile, realized losses come into bear market, and these are two charts that tells us the same things, and that into a bull we are still in a bear market for the price action majority, but we are seeing something changing, more realizing profit than losses, and so probably in the next few weeks we are going to see something changing, as we already said. Bull market is coming, I think, into 1 year, 2 years, 2025. I think we'll have the new all-time high, but this is another thing, and I don't want to talk about that now. But this is my price prediction. Actually, next year we'll see bull market price appreciation, and 2025 we'll get into a new all-time high. So this taking into account macro and so on as well. Anyway, this is everything, guys and girls. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and so on. So we are in all platforms. All links into descriptions. Tell me whatever you wanna see, and ask me any question. I will reply as soon as I can. And go for this kind of data and how to assess and the market. From an on-chain perspective, technical analysis perspective, or fundamental analysis for your altcoins, go to ChainLog.info to choose your course. We have a 30% discount if you buy all 3 courses that we have, and maybe next year or in the next cycle you'll be able to realize a lot more profits. So this is it. I wish you the best things in life, health, money, and love as always, and we see you next time. Cheers, you guys and girls.